vibe. Baby girl, keep it real, no lies. She said she's 21, I said alright. If we gon' be going, treat your mind. I just wanna chill and vibe. 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 Son, baby, turn up. You know who to go turn up. Turn up. Don't turn up.
Fuck your head, bitch.
It's okay. No, turn up. Baby, turn up. You know who to go turn up. Turn up. Baby, turn up. You know who to go turn up. Let's start the show. On the good vibes. Let's start the show.
Hey.
Hey, hey. On the good. Turn up, turn up, turn up, turn up. Hey, what's good, Simples? This is your boy Buddha, and over there is the lovely
Baby.
And we coming to you live with another episode of Sipping and Conversations. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look to my left, I got a full house. I got my man Charles, Mr. Charles Carr. I got my man over here, Mr. Miles Mulrain.
Yes, sir.
Never gonna get it.
Hey, and
Good job.
over here in the back, we got the man himself, the Dr. Javone Dr. Love Jones.
Gotta love Jones.
All right. Cut all the nonsense. Let's get right into it. Sir, first man up on the docket, Mr. Charles Carr. Let the sippers know who y'all.
So I'm Charles Carr. I'm originally from Eatonville, born and raised in Eatonville, 1887. I did 15 years in the military. I got medically retired. So now I currently reside in Sanford. And at the present time, I'm the team director at the Boys and Girls Club here in Pine Hills off of Hernandez Drive.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm Mulrain. I'm gonna let your voice be heard out of Orlando, Florida. We do community work, social justice issues. A lot of times we come to scenes where people get did wrong either by systemic issues or by racist issues or just by police issues. So we try to make ourselves a resource. We try to lift people up. I've been in Florida my whole life, and I'm just, born in Paramore, raised on Paramore basically my whole life, and seeing everything. I had people that came before me who were better people at doing this work, and I seen them either pass away or just get hurt out here. So I felt it was my duty to, do my part and step up and try to make something change.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. But ladies and gentlemen, hold on. What you sipping on out there? So I got a little something. Baby got a little something. My man here got a little something. The love doctor got something. But hold on. We always say, as long as you're sipping on something, right? And every now and then, baby will say, even if it's water, right? I ain't take it literally. But my man over here, he actually got some water.
Let that man be great. Let him live.
It's all good.
Some of us got to do the right thing.
Okay.
On the hump day.
Water is good for the body. So
Absolutely.
He's sipping healthy.
So is this good liquor?
Okay. So although we know who the young fella in the back is, give us a quick intro on who you are for our new sippers.
Yeah, so my name is Javone Dr. Love Jones. I'm an author. I was on the show about a few weeks ago. I just wrote my first book, Level Up, How to Start Living Your Best Life Now. I'm originally from North New Jersey. I moved out here in the Central Florida area over about a year and a half ago. And my job here is, as an author, I'm also a speaker. I'm doing coaching. So the goal is to kind of continue to level up and be in a position where I can level up other people around me, because we all want to grow. We all into growth, and growth is a part of life. If you're not growing, you're not living.
Absolutely.
Almost teared up here.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to not go into our recap last week.
Oh no, we're not gonna do that, man. We got all these good folks here.
Understandable. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. All right. So what I'll do later, I'll just do a watch party of our last week conversations, so that you can kind of catch up and get refreshed or what have you. Catch up and all of that. Catch up. Yes. So what we're gonna do is basically jump right into what we got going on. Tonight we're talking about burn or not to burn. That is the question. In with all of the recent turmoil going on, social injustice, economic injustice. We have George Floyd, police brutality, excessive police brutality, and, looting, rioting, peaceful protests, the whole 9 yards. Never mind the fact we still are in a pandemic. We have to be mindful of that. Here, we're now officially in hurricane season.
Damn!
So we got to think about that, So it's a lot going on, checking people's mental health and everything. So what we wanted to do tonight, of course, is have a nice panel of some open-minded individuals, as you heard earlier with one of the introductions. We have a community activist amongst our presence. Yes, and we also have someone that works at one of our local community centers. So we're going to get some perspectives on, both ends. So that's what we want to talk about a little bit tonight. First of all, their thoughts, a little bit about what they do, again, a little bit more in depth. And I have some questions, Buddha and I, we're going to bounce some questions back and forth to open up conversation, which will allow for you all to hear more of what they can do, what they offer, and all the things that they, just their input as a whole. We okay with that? And as he said, I am sipping. I got some apple whiskey with a little apple liqueur and ginger ale.
More liquor.
Yeah, mind your business. Let me live.
Me, I'm on some Jamaican rum and ginger ale.
So, somebody got some dark rum on the rocks.
And we got some over here.
Fresh old Zephyr Hill.
Nice.
And then we got another special Guyanese rum.
Okay.
Yep, age 12 years age, so it's 12 years at least in the barrel before they pour it out.
Y'all share it today?
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, he can handle that part because I don't know that piece, right?
Gotcha.
All right. So while Buddha's doing his little piece, I'm gonna kind of bounce a little bit in, and I'm gonna start with Miles because again, with what's going on, we want to get, I want to get right to it. All right. So let's see, which one do I want to do? How long have you been involved in your community activist work?
I've been doing, I founded Let Your Voice Be Heard in 2016, but I kind of started really 2015, but we wasn't doing activism. I was doing more book bag giveaways, fun days in the park, and doing more community give backs and charitable things. It was around 2016 when one of my associates, one of my friends I grew up with actually, he was doing work with My Brother's Keeper with Obama's initiative, and he was actually doing this type of stuff, inspiring me, but he was actually a victim of a drive-by shooting. He was an innocent bystander, him and a young mother. And when they were killed, it was like 6 people shot at the same time. It was in my neighborhood I grew up in, the same street my aunt lived on. So that's when I kind of switched from just doing the give backs. And I started focusing on, I saw the Black Lives Matter movement, but I focused on black on black and inner city crime first. Right. It was while I was doing that work that a lot of stuff happened. If you remember the year 2016, that's when a lot of the stuff just kept happening. And that's when I was like, we got to tackle everything. And with the recent stuff, before we get to the protest, sometimes we've been doing this issue in the past with so many other issues. You know, we did the march in 2016 where we had about 2,500 people out there at Lake Yoba. And that was the Philando Castile and Alton Sterling when they happened back to back. And, you know, we've been here before, and we started from there to like doing community forums and doing actual programs, trying to do stuff. And I spent a couple years, I feel like doing it a different kind of way than I should have because I didn't know better. And I learned from my mistakes. I started dealing with organizations, I started dealing with government, and I was still naive to it. You know, I built relationships with the Orange County and the city of Orlando and other places like that. But I've also learning that sometimes you build relationships, they don't want you to talk about the bad part of them. So I had to kind of sever some of those relationships in order to stay like just straightforward. So, you know, we do what we can, and I see me doing the protests. You know, we've been out there protesting too and been out there with people, but one of our biggest messages we preach is that, you know, when the protesting is done, we need to get active.
Absolutely.
And, you know, the protests, I understand so it's controversial all the time because some people are like, you know, we so tired of marching. I'm tired of marching. I'm out there still, but I get tired of it too. But I think it's also real important though. I think it's real important because every time I go out there, I see fresh faces. So I made myself involved with those so much because those fresh faces can fade out if they don't know what the next step is, and they become just like everybody else, tired of marching.
Yep.
So that's why I made kind of my personal mission with these, to kind of help guide and try to reach out, because people just see me, but behind me I got a group of people letting me know like, all right, now we got done with that. Bring them to me. You know, let me put my hands on them, what, you know, and I just got my role I play, I feel like.
Okay. And so now what I want to find out from you, how long have you been working with children or in, you know, doing community?
So I've been working with children for probably the last 15 years. When I was involved, speak up a little bit. So in Texas, I was a part of a church there, and on Thursdays I would go out and preach a word to the juveniles. So that's where I was on Thursdays, and then every now and then I would get a chance to go on Saturday to the inmates. And so then I went to North Carolina. I worked with youth there, and then also I had a wonderful opportunity to get stationed overseas in Belgium. And so I was the youth leader there at my church. One of the youth leaders there, and a lot of the kids there were from Africa. They were from the Congo. So I got a chance to get immersed in Congolese culture and to be able to see their perspective, to see the world from an Eastern standpoint. I think a lot of times we focus, when we're here in America, we only look at the struggles that we're going through, and in some instances, our African brothers and sisters are going through the same thing we're going through. So it's not, for me, it's not just, even though this is where we are, but it's colored people getting treated bad around the whole world.
Right. Not
just here. And so then I came here, I worked and volunteered in Sanford, and then finally in August I started working at the Pine Hills Boys and Girls Club. So what I do there, I'm a teen director, and on any given day, we can normally have like maybe 110 teenagers. And sometimes it's only like 4 or 5 staff. So we're overwhelmed. The opportunities we have YAI, so Youth Arts Initiative. So there's a room where the kids can paint. I mean, we got pictures of Kendrick Lamar, like Dave, J. Cole, like some really dope artists. Then you have another room, which is our computer lab. Nothing but Apple computers in there. So kids can go in there, learn digital arts, how to cut, whatever they do in digital arts. And then we also have a robotics group. And if you do a certain amount of years in robotics and pass a certain amount of tests, NASA will pay for your education.
Wow.
And we also, just a couple of days ago, I had one of the fire department chiefs, he came up there. And he gave us a couple of brochures. Once the kids graduated, they want to become firemen. There's a test. If they pass the test, fire department, the county's paying for their training, and that's benefits.
Right.
So it's a lot of things happening in the community, but we don't have enough volunteers. Because with 110 kids, there's no way 4 people can watch 110 kids like that.
Yeah.
But what frustrates me is you see a lot of people posting about what's wrong with the kids, what's wrong. But then I make a post saying, hey, God, I need some volunteers to come in. And I get 3 likes and no comments. So it's crazy to me. Like we have a need here.
Yeah.
If you want to be a celebrity or you want people to look up to you, here's 110 kids.
Right.
Start
You
there.
definitely-
Right there.
Yeah, right.
If you want an audience, you got 100 kids. I can set you up an audience, and you can sit there and pour into these kids. One of the other things I saw is I just asked them random questions, and this is just teens in general around Central Florida. The average teen, black teen, couldn't tell me who Frederick Douglass was.
Wow.
Couldn't tell me who George Washington Carver was. So now we're trying to encourage them to fight on with this movement, and they don't even know Black history.
Yeah.
So what are they going to fight for something that they rarely even know? And I think that falls back on the parents and everyone else. Because I know as kids, we had to know these guys. But the average kid couldn't tell me who Frederick Douglass was.
Wow. Okay. So I'm gonna take, and I'm gonna, I wanna go back to you, Miles. With everything, like you say, you started you from Paramore, you know what I mean? So you already know what they call it. What it in town? What's the right way? Cross town, in town, cross town.
Right now, cross town.
You know what I'm saying? So I didn't have to grow up over there, but I knew a lot of people that was in the area that I frequented. What changes, or do you think there are any changes that's happened from growing up to present day?
I mean, one thing that people don't realize about Paramore, when we grew up in the beginning, there was Carver Park, aka Beirut, Griffin Park. There was other places. Griffin Park's still around, but there's other places, Jackson Court, across the street. There was other places that were there, and people don't understand when it comes down to our issues. It's not just like police brutality that's the issue. It's like systemic racism, people losing jobs, layoffs happening. I remember my mom getting laid off, and a lot of people getting laid off in the city when there's new things that happen. I remember when they tore down all the projects and then moved everybody to Reese Terrace and then made them move out of there and took away the vouchers they had. And it's certain systems that we become dependent on that when they take it from under us, it makes us collapse. Like Paramore alone, I think they said from the last like probably 3 elections over the last 12 years, it went down from 8,000 to 2,000 registered voters in Paramore. So you got people getting moved out and then new people coming in, and that's because people don't have ownership. You rent an apartment and then they don't renew the lease. They're selling, they're getting new management. They're not, whatever happens to you, people end up in these traps.
Yeah.
So I've seen it my whole life and I never understood it. And I think it's like what he said, like, no one, and I'm gonna tell you, like a lot of stuff I know now, I didn't learn until like the last 5-6 years. This is stuff that I had to do research on my own. I went to college and studied world religion, but didn't know what was going on in my backyard. And I think that just comes down to us not prepping the kids right. I remember growing up, and no lie, my mom can tell you, I was in 12th grade. I had good ACT and SAT scores. I was a good student, but I had gotten in trouble a lot. And I was in the magnet program, but I got arrested and kicked out the magnet program. And I was at Jones, and they kicked me out and sent me to Boone. And then when I went to Boone, I got worse.
Yeah.
Because I felt so out of it. My first day walking to school, a white boy slid by me my first time ever, and he threw a bottle at me. He said, "Get out of my school, nigger." And I remember that's my first experience there. So after that, I was like, you know what? Every day, 3rd period after lunch, left.
Wow.
I left. I was gone. It was a one fat guy named Coach Ziegler or something. Couldn't catch me. And I think a lot of people don't understand, like, there's certain things that I know if I would have been told, like, okay, even though, because when I was at Jones, no lie, 3.7 GPA. I love Jones. I love going to school. Like I thought it was punishment to keep me out of class because our class was so fun.
That's so beautiful.
You know, and I think that it comes down to us having more pride in us, and then also like teaching our kids more than what the schools teach us. Because we get studied for all these tests all the time. These kids don't know what it is. Like we had the protest yesterday. You got the white kids and the black kids. Everybody's mad, and I'm not gonna put it on the white kids. There's nothing wrong with them because some of these new white kids, it's not their fault. Right. You know, they don't. If they could, they would chop off their arm to help us. Some of them are oblivious. But what the issue is that no one knows, and the white kids are coming down here mad, so they're throwing bottles at the cops, and they're doing stuff, and they're causing like issues, and the black kids are following right behind because they're like, well, shoot, the white people doing it too? Because I'm gonna kid you, and I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but the black kids are like, we know what to do with the cops. We're not gonna mess with them.
Right.
But the white kids popped it off, so all the black kids joined in, but guess who's getting arrested more?
Yeah.
The black kids.
The black kids. Guess who's getting pursued more? The black kids. And I think that that's like, it's something that we need to learn our history because these 16 and 15-year-old kids only know TikTok. They don't know the history of Jim Crow and the police force and certain things that's in place. So they're oblivious to it, and when these issues happen, you know, some of these kids wasn't even alive when Trayvon happened, and they're online and they're coming out to these things and stuff like that. So, you know, this is a new generation. Time is going quick. You know, there was like 4 or 5, they wasn't around to understand. Now they're 17 years old and they're trying to get active, but they don't know what is going on. So I think it's all about, I think it comes down to that. And I think the protests are like a nice start. You know, it's like those arrests when we hear the cops get arrested.
Yeah.
The protest is equivalent to that. Like, that's a nice start. You did a part. But what are you doing to make sure we prevent this?
Right.
Because the protests are reactions.
Right.
But we don't put enough. You know, it's kind of like somebody said, the play is the sexy part, but the planning and the production is the ugly part. And so when I do these type of things, I can get 1,000 people out. But like I said, I used to go to JDC and ask people to come out. 4 people come out. But I could put a post up and get 1,000 likes, 1,000 shares, and then ask who's gonna come mentor me, and maybe 10 of us show up. And 5 of them I called on the phone. You know, and that's just the reality of it. But if it's a big issue around the world, people like it because they can hashtag it and put it online.
Well, because everything it has to be social media level.
Yeah.
If it's not a social media thing,
it ain't important.
It's not, it ain't important enough. And then if 4 or 5 people are doing it, and then it gets, like you say, it becomes a hashtag, oh boy, you know what I mean? So it's like, how do we get beyond that? And we kind of was pre-talking a little bit before the show about the things that used to be in place for like the prevention or just the awareness. You know, we had the different services and so forth, but you know, it's like our grandparents and generations, you know, slowly coming to us. They were starting with what they had. Then they passed that on, or whatever they could pass on, they passed it on, and so forth and so on, right? But at some point, and I think it probably happened around our generation, you know, I feel, is when, you know, they say you get older, you get wiser. But what happened, I think, is our generation, we got some of the 70s and the, you know, the 60s, you know, we got that old school still in our spirit. So we now was able to change, or not just so much as change, but we came in when technology was coming into play. So now we got doing it the old way, and we got a glimpse of the new way. So now our children, we've been trying to equip them with this old school, new school, and so now we got this whole generation of thinkers.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? But they're thinking which is good, they're thinking from an empowered perspective, but many of them were getting fed possibly what at their level. You know what I mean? It's like, you can only, like you said, you didn't really start really understanding until 5-6 years ago.
So
I'll give you one, and it's something I want to read here. Once I say this, because I think it's something that's important. But I remember growing up in church, and what I was telling Carl was a lot of times we were taught religion, but we weren't taught relationship or how did it apply. How, okay, we're at church, we're shouting, but then how do we apply it when we get out? So a lot of people that grew up in church were not taught how to properly apply it. I thought Jesus was white. I go to my first duty station, and now I'm seeing books on African history. I'm seeing pictures of Samson of color. And I actually got a chance to go over there. And in some of those areas, that was people, Shaq's complexion. So I'm like, well, wait a minute. Then I had a chance to go to Rome. And I saw a lot of the looting, a lot of the African arts. I'm like, all this stuff, get over here. Because Rome is really a third world city. The Vatican is just nice.
Well, that's his own country.
Right, yeah. So I'm like, but watch this. I wanted to show y'all this. And this is in Exodus, right? It says, Exodus 1 and 12, it says, but the more, now tell me, how does this sound? And again, I'm not putting religion, but I'm just saying, how does this sound? But the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more the Israelites multiplied and spread. And the more alarmed the Egyptians became. It said again, the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more the Israelites multiplied and spread. So think about them. They brought us over here in chains. They oppressed us. We eventually got free.
Okay.
We didn't have rights. They continued to oppress us. Now we have rights. Now look at us now. More blacks now. Because remember, this just happened 60 years ago.
Yeah.
This ain't even been, was it 1964, 68?
Yeah.
So we're not even at the 60-year mark yet. And in 60 years of being somewhat, even though we know it's not true, somewhat equal, we're homeowners, we're flying, we're going on cruises.
Okay.
We're like, so in that 60 years from really having nothing, we have progressed a lot. And I think that's where making things applicable to see how we fit in, because most of us were taught that this is the white man, Jesus white, this the white man made this up, but not seeing, no, we were behind most of the authors in here were people of color.
All right. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
Well, you know, based on what you read and what I heard, it's really telling me that ain't nothing new on the sun, and this thing always gonna go back around.
Yeah.
You know, if you believe in that great book, and you seeing it there, and you see it here. But see, that in itself is half of the problem. So my issue was going back to the 60s and 70s. The biggest issue we had, in my opinion, was the integration between the blacks and the whites.
Right.
Now that gave us false hope, and we got comfortable. So now the years have passed on, right? And we feel like we're equal now, right? Instead of standing on the same principles and morals and togetherness that we had back then, and applying it with the knowledge and stuff we got going on, we just kind of slid that by and started stepping on each other's necks. There was a separation between our own kind.
So you're saying based on the historical Jones back in the day, you had the best teachers of the best teachers all at one school.
Right.
Now, some of the best black teachers might be out there in Windermere, or might be, because now of the pay.
Well, I mean, I think you're giving a false sense of security, meaning that, you know what, hey man, listen, I'm just as equal as the next white man, right? But now we come, I'm gonna let you slide right in, but now we coming in right here, and these same white guys are showing us, police officer, whoever, this ain't true. You know, now we want to buck up against that. Now, when we should have stood what got us to this point back then. So what I'm saying, it's just my theory. I could be right. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I got something to say to that too. No,
So here's my thing about integration.
Okay.
It was a compromise we ended up settling for. because immigration was not the problem. The problem was not, oh, we wanted to be in a white man's league when it comes to baseball.
Right.
It's not that we wanted to be in the MLB. We wanted to have the equal quality, that we can get the same type of funding, the same type of situations. We don't have to sit here and drink from the dirty fountain. We can drink from the clean fountain. If you want to separate black and white, long as we both can have clean fountains, that'd be fine. Mm-hmm. But it became now that this was all strategic. They devalued everything they had, from our property, from our businesses, from the stuff that we was doing. When we built up Black Wall Street, they bombed it. When we built up any other thing, they bombed it. So they try to mitigate us and minimize anything we did, so that it seemed like having our own is not what we need. We need to have what they have. And the truth is not having what they have. We needed to find a way to make what we have on the same par level as what they had. And that's where equality and integration came in, because it was not truly integration. It was really, they let us in on what they had. And that's what it came down to as far as a structural thing. Now, of course, as far as now going forward now, where we at now, we're still able to find our own. We, as you mentioned, we're homeowners, we're business owners, we're doing this, we're doing that. We were doing that ever since. Mm-hmm. It's just that
comfortable.
It wasn't more of a comfort, it was more of a tactic.
And I want to say, you were hit right on what I was going to say. Mm-hmm. Was that I don't believe the Integration Act in itself was the issue. Mm-hmm. I believe the issue, and I don't think it's on the black people, because I think it's something that led to it, but I think the issue became when a fluent black person felt safer in a white neighborhood than he felt in a black neighborhood. And when a person, to make it, meant to move out the hood, quote unquote. Right. I think that's where things kind of got, because like you're from Eatonville, the first black community affiliated, first black incorporated city in the whole world, in the whole country. Right. So Eatonville should be the utopia for black people. That should be the Wakanda of the nation, if you think about it, technically speaking. Yeah. Right. It should technically be the place that people travel to, like a Mecca. Mm-hmm. Like, we should be coming through to, like, yo, this is the first time it was ever founded by us, for us, by us, type stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's not. Mm-hmm. It's unknown. We did Juneteenth there last year. People didn't even know about the Juneteenth event still. Right. Like, Zora Neale goes there, people only know about that, but don't know it's in Eatonville. Right. And I think that a lot of times it came down to things that were put place value on. It was like brainwashing very slowly but surely. Like, you weren't successful unless you had what the white man had. Like, even when it came to code switching, when we started adopting that, we started code switching, and instead of us being like, that's okay, you know, you're doing this, it became, well, you better talk white. Right. Instead of talking proper. Right. Mm-hmm. You know, there's certain terms that we started using that made it seem like white was right. And when I was pulling this up on here, it's a book that I suggest. Like, I've read a little bit of it, but I only got put onto it. But it's called The Color of Law, if any of y'all ever heard of it. And it's actually a book about all the forgotten laws that were passed from, 1865 to, or 1864, when it actually happened, ratified, when Lincoln ratified it. From then to now, right, to like 2000 and something. And it goes through the laws like when they passed laws like to give a black person a loan in 1920 was criminal. Like, you couldn't get a home loan. If you got a home loan within 5 miles of any white person, it was criminal. To where you couldn't get a job, a white man couldn't hire more than one black person in each location. Like, there's certain laws in here that they show it in plain text that we don't know about because they're not printed in our history books. So when you get in history passed down, they're not talking about when this law was passed just because it was changed, slowly, or the language changed. Just like the 13th Amendment. We did a Juneteenth. I'm a grown person. We had somebody read the 13th Amendment. I was so mad. Like, if you ever read the 13th Amendment, you would realize we are not truly free. Like, read it for yourself. Don't let somebody tell you what the 13th Amendment is. Read it for yourself and process it, and you will understand we're not free. So I think a lot of times we have to understand too that, we can put it on other generations, but it's also very, very systemic things that's taking place. Mm-hmm. And that's why it can't protest to get it done. Y'all ain't gonna get it done. We're gonna need people in the banks. We're gonna need people in the schools. We're gonna need people at the doctor's offices that don't turn away people at the insurance offices not giving us higher rates for our insurance because you're black. You know, we got places that give us all kind of systemic racism that until we identify it and let people in those places, that's the only way we're gonna really change things.
Let me tell you. First of all, I've been saying this.
We've been saying that.
Yeah, but what I said was, yeah, it's good that you have the people on the front line. Front line, yes, but it's more important for you to have your back people. You need to get your people in the clerical courts. You need to get your people into these different agencies that's doing their regular job, but they also with this organization, and they know what. They keep their eyes open, you know, just for observation purposes. Hey, you know, this is what you need to know. Telling you the internal things, because how did the system? You gotta infiltrate the system. And to infiltrate it, you gotta get in it. Being on the outside, rah.
That's what they did to us.
Right. That's how we. That's why we can't get ahead, because we don't have the system. What we need to be doing is getting a nonprofit legal team that's exclusive for civil rights. However, they do their regular job, but they also ready to go and aid and bail, bond, whatever you got to do for those that are genuinely fighting a good fight. Because, see, that's what happened back in the 50s and the 60s. You did have a team. There was teams, legal teams in place. Why do you think those people got out of jail? Somebody went and got them. Now you're gonna have to collaborate with
those guys,
those opposite races.
We call them the Nabisco friends.
You know what I'm saying?
and then also some people who are good as long as they understand that. Like I tell all the white people who come to me to help, I'm not racist. I got nothing against white people, and I welcome you to come here. But as long as you don't try to tell my story for me, and I won't tell nobody's story for them. But as long as you are saying that I will support you in what I think you need, but not telling me, hey, Miles, what you need to be doing is telling them guys to get off the street and get a job. Like, it's the same just stuff like, and this stuff like that sometimes comes out that's just not what it is, you know? And I think a lot of times when it comes to our issues, we're so busy focused on, like, you know, the immediate things that we see. Somebody got shot. So it's easiest for us to target that easier thing. But somebody said something at a rally yesterday that was important. That was like, racism just don't start with George Floyd and all these hashtags. No. Racism starts when your employer doesn't give you a raise but uses your work and doesn't let you come home, or says those sly remarks that says, when they see the protest, asks you, are you going to protest? Or you did it? Like, it's subtle racism that we need to start exposing too.
Right. So to answer that, ask the question then, what do you do in those situations? Because see, when you get in situations where you are compromised, like you're saying, you're compromised and you speak up, now you're a whistleblower, right? Now you villainize, right? And sometimes they try to figure out a way to get you away from that job. So what do you do in those situations where, you know, if you go to the man, or you go around and talk to HR, and now you villainize? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it happens.
So it happens.
To answer that question, I'm gonna be very honest because I'm in a different space in life. You have to go. Who you work for has to be in alignment with who you are as a person.
Agreed.
You cannot just say I'm gonna buck it up and just earn that paycheck and expect things to work smoothly. If you have a boss that is not, I understand that the job comes as a job. No one questions that.
Right.
You got to do your job when you do your job.
And you got people who are dependent on you in certain circumstances.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. So the most important thing, what we have to understand that we're in 2020. We're not in the 60s. In the 60s, there were either white people that were supporting the violence or the acts that was done against black people, or there were white people who were quiet. Now, during those, there were white organizations that was help aiding us. They were there, but they were more on the low. History liked to leave them out, but they were part of history. Even in the slave days, there were a lot of white abolitionists was a part of it. Spelman, the name Spelman was Johnny Rockefeller's, his wife, maiden name. The reason why Spelman College is called Spelman is a black college in America because it's named after, because that family were actually abolitionists. They were the ones that was fighting for freedom on African Americans. So that is something we have to recognize, that there were many white people.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
We learn something every day.
I
learn something every day. Yeah.
That's my Morehouse. Is Morehouse a white person too? Hey, let me know.
But Spelman, that Spelman is Johnny Rockefeller's wife maiden name. Definitely look it up, check it out. So if you look at history, there are white people that was always on our side. It's just that history wants to leave them out because we don't want to know. When you think about the freedom fighters of the 1970s with the Black Panther movement and those other movements that was aligned with that, there were white movements that was assisting those.
It was.
So, to finish my point too, because we got to look at this today, is that there are white people that is willing to ride. That's now today more. There's more white people that's fed up with what's going on because they don't want to be seen like they're aligned with those people that are doing the damages to us. They don't want to be considered racist. They don't want to. So we got to know how to use our allies, but we also have to recognize and help them recognize to support is not to try to corrupt its control. It's to support. Support means whatever you say you need, I'm here to support you. It's not for me to say, okay, you're doing this wrong, you need to do this, and then tell people, oh, you need to check him when they do it. So that's what we need. So go ahead.
All right, so I'm agreeing with everything you're saying, but I'm just gonna flip it just because I need to flip it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know how you do.
So, you know, we've grown up and we've all felt a level of racism, correct? From the opposite race, correct? So with that being said, they're always planting moles in our situations. Right. So as many of those people that we're talking about that was serving and helping and supporting us.
I will say this. We go back to Marcus Garvey, Black Panthers, MLK supposedly. All these people were infiltrated by black people. Black spies. So I do get you saying too, but I'm saying we gotta watch everybody.
You know what I'm saying?
Everybody and
right. So I'm feeling it. So it's kind of hard to even trust our own people.
Yep.
Let alone trust somebody else.
And I'm gonna tell you what a white person does, and I think when they do it, it's so subconscious, is that sometimes they're privileged. Like a white person can have compassion, but until they acknowledge their privilege and know how to check their own privilege at the door, that's where it gets hard. Because sometimes, even with the allies I have, there comes a time where they have that one moment where they be like, well, why don't y'all just do this? Right. Well, this is what I did and it worked for me, so why doesn't this work? Like, or the mistake that they make is when they have that one black friend who came from the hood, who never got in trouble and did just right.
We've all been that person.
They're like, why don't you? Or they be like, or they reference the black friend. Well, I know Sandra never got in trouble and she got straight A's and she made it out to Ivy League school, did great. Why can't everybody else do it? And that's the thing that we just cannot apply to everybody, because what I've learned, right, because I used to go to JDC and go to places and deal with them kids who be like, oh, they so bad, you get on the news, oh, this kid got 10 breakers, Man, I've been around kids who've gotten beat for asking their parents, well, why don't I ever get food? Gotten beat to the point that they're bloodied up, so they went out that night and robbed somebody just to get some food. I've been around one girl who was 13 years old who was getting sold to a pimp by her sister and mother. She could speak English, she was Spanish. She could speak English. Her mother and sister claimed they couldn't. But sold her to a pimp. Her pimp had a girlfriend. She got outraged. The girl's like 13. She hopped in the car and tried to run the girl over. Now she's looking at attempted murder. You know, I've seen people who've been in situations, been put in there by so many predicaments, and sometimes it's been literally the saddest situation where a boy's mom was a situation where his mom was sick. She couldn't leave the bed. She couldn't get any kind of Medicaid to cover her. The Medicaid only gave her maintenance medication, but nothing that could actually help her. So she was stuck in a trap. She couldn't have no energy to go get it filled. So the boy was out doing robberies.
So you making interesting points. I got it. I feel it. So my question to everybody here, right? Why the hell would they take us serious? All the stuff you just said was us against us. We can't even get us together. So why would we expect?
And I know you probably want to say something. I'm just saying because I opened up the camera.
Why would you expect another race to take us serious?
Guess what? Just like we're sitting in here having this intelligible conversation, this great conversation, this would never make headlines. And just like he does all this work at Boys and Girls Club day in and day out, that would never make headlines unless somebody brings attention to it. Right. And I think that what happens with us is that we allow ourselves to become victims of media. We watch the news ourselves and be like, dang, black people always on here for something wrong. But they don't tell you that at that time that there's this many black people who did that same kind of crime in this other side of town.
Of course.
Especially living in Orlando. You know, we're not going to get that rap. So I think a lot of times we focus even more on the negative so much. We've been conditioned subconsciously to kind of like
boom, now we
focus on our own negative more than we focus on our positive, because I see 1 million black people on their job every day more than I see people actually disrupting the community.
Right. That's right.
And that's on any given day. I see people who want to help, and the problem is that we have been so terrorized that a lot of times we try to make it to the finish line that we'll just stay in our own lane. We don't want to step out because we want to make it to the finish line, protect our family, and that's nothing wrong with that.
We've been talking about
it's either your game or not. You're doing your part by being good and doing your role, and sometimes you can step out. But I know sometimes I've had to step back because of my own family, my own safety.
Right.
You know, because at the end of the day, this is a marathon, not a race.
Yep.
But it's just that's the thing that we got to kind of our hurdle.
But this is what came to me as we were just talking.
Okay.
Y'all play video games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at Street Fighter. You have power levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the time we start fighting back, our energy is at 0.
We kept hitting the little arm.
No, this is where it starts. I'm with the youth. I'm not going to name the test, but there's a certain test at a certain grade in elementary school that already signals to the powers that be how many jails. So we focusing on 20-year-olds. We need to be at the elementary school levels. We need to be here. We need to be flooded. We need to be making an imprint on them.
Absolutely.
Because the moral of the story is by the time, 9 times out of 10, that 25-year-old guy that's out there looting right now, his mindset's probably not going to change until it's too late. These are the groups.
That's right.
That these clubs, these organizations that are trying to put positive. So this 7-year-old, because the 7-year-old looks at you like a celebrity.
Yeah.
The 13-year-old look at you like, what are you talking about? You got to get them there. And I think in society, from being around white friends and having, they're Jewish boys. Jewish boys have a bar mitzvah at 12.
Yeah, let's say 13.
They have a celebration into manhood at 12. They're out there with their father's business at 12.
Yeah.
While some of our kids
Still
don't even have their
video
mama with the groceries. A girl came over. I was at Teague Middle School, and one of the students I ended up subbing for the rest of the year at this one class. I had them for the rest of the year. This girl came over from India, barely speaking English, and was finished with her test. She said they were getting like 3 hours of TV a week, and they go to school on Saturdays. Damn. And in Asia too.
Nah,
so these kids, like I remember, what was the one kid? I think he was from Jamaica. Went to Jones. I got a Harvard.
Yeah.
So this kid wasn't even over here that long. Yeah. Come over here. And he's surpassing kids who've been
Jones again.
I think with our kids is the cell phones.
I'm gonna say this another thing. What we don't recognize is that from the time a kid is born to the age of 7, they are in phase where they are malleable. Their brains are so malleable.
Right.
Mind you, when you're from age 0 to 7, you haven't had your subconscious program on that level.
Yeah.
Your kids, when you're a kid, your subconscious is very open. So from that age, 1 through 7 is the most important years of teaching, because after they age 7, their subconscious is programmed, and they're going to do what they're used to doing. And that's the thing that we have to recognize, that when we're dealing with kids, we should not, that's the point where they should be learning the most. From age 0 to 7, the kid can learn a second language, a third language. Because at that point, they haven't learned enough English to think that they can't learn something else. Now, me at 32 years old trying to learn a second language, that might be a little challenge, because I know so much of English that the first thought I see something, I'm not thinking in another language, I'm thinking in English. And that's part of learning another language.
But we used to laugh when we were kids. When we're in the grocery store and we're looking at a white family and little Babi is 3 and the white mother's like, Babi, why are you doing that? She was talking to Babi like an adult. She wasn't babying him. She was talking about like, Babi, why are you doing this? And at 3, he's picking it up.
That's right.
But see, I'm gonna tell you now, I grew up in that way. Cause I grew up, and maybe because my family, I'm first generation American. Both my parents were from Guyana. So being a first generation American, I guess my perspective a little different. But we grew up speaking to kids like adults. So I remember when I had my daughter, before I had my daughter, this is where I was with my big mother. So when they seen a baby, I'm like, hey, I'm speaking to the baby, and she's asking, why are you speaking like baby like as a grown adult? I said, because that's how you speak to kids. You don't speak to them in baby talk, because they're not going to grow up speaking baby talk. You want them to grow up speaking in words. So I never understood why do you adult speak to children in baby talk. I never understand it. I didn't Google Gaga my daughter.
Why we want to get down on their level?
Because that's the age. If you don't teach, when you have a kid and when you have a baby, and this is something we gotta understand, you have to normalize the environment like they are in everyday life.
Right.
You cannot keep it a hush-hush environment, because now they're gonna be they're gonna be shaking every loud sound that they get. When people start talking in normal house speaking voice, because you kept that baby in hush-hush environment, when they get around other places, they're gonna be terrorized by that. You have to keep an environment of normalcy.
So then that counters a little bit in Eatonville, based on where we all are. We're still around family. We're still around little Poodle and Ray them. So a lot of families, and I'm gonna move my kid out here where he might be only one of few blacks, and I'm gonna put him in a situation where he's not gonna be picked on for making straight A's or being intelligent.
Well, so I'm gonna caveat that. Because I'm speaking from a different.
Gotcha.
There's nothing wrong for wanting your child to have the better things in life. You know what I'm saying? The problem is, don't forget where you came from.
Gotcha.
I agree.
Don't forget where you came from. But I'm gonna ask this question, because this is what it really is. So, how are we gonna now change the narrative? We have all these injustices. We have all these rallies, riots, and movements going, right? But we feel like we ain't getting nowhere in the public eye. We might be doing some behind the scene things. So how do we, as a culture, individually, your own opinion, change the narrative and start beyond the riot, like you said, beyond the movement? Where do you go? Where do we send our people, our children, the elders? Because it doesn't, we gonna continue to learn until we die, right?
I mean, and I'm gonna tell you that, like, I'm gonna try to make this as abbreviated as possible, because I know we all probably have a long thing on it, because it's a long list. It's not, just one thing to do.
I feel it.
But I do feel like where it comes from is from with us as a culture. I feel like when we take more charge of our own culture and start building our own resources, and I'm gonna name a couple of examples that I think for one, I always felt like when it came down to our priorities and what we did as a culture, like we always let money be the priority, right? So what I mean by that is, how many kids do you know right now are being raised up to get a scholarship by playing sports? How many kids do you know or going through life right now in the streets trying to become a rapper because they want to get rich. And then how many people do you know that follow the same things that lead to disappointment? And what I mean by that is we need to put an emphasis on our black doctors, lawyers, bankers, teachers, scholars, different scientists, and in different industries, because I know that for a fact we do have more good than bad. But the problem is that what we highlight most of the time, we let them highlight it. It ain't just us. And I always tell people, like with Facebook, I'm on Facebook a lot, and Instagram and all that stuff, I'm trying to get off because it's not for us. Those places are made to glorify violence, to glorify fights, to limit people who speak positivity, and other things like that. So I think when we as a culture start to go back to the whole BET phase, and before it turns to what it is now, like when we was like, you know, that was everything. FUBU was everything to us. FUBU was our Gucci. Like rappers was in FUBU, you know, and Albert on what, and I think in the Rockaway, when Rockaway came out, that was everything. Like, and I think that as long, and I think we're getting towards, I think it's like he said, to the point that we do beat ourselves up. Yeah. We have 400 years of going through this stuff. Then we've been going through another 100 and something years after that of more BS, and now in the past 50. So it's like, yes, it's a small timeline, but we need to keep focusing on the good. We cannot fall for that trap, because right now I go out to the protest to try to curb that, because it's gonna happen with or without me. It's gonna happen. But at the end of the day, if you were to turn on the news, you will be mentally depressed. Absolutely. You will believe that narrative. You would think that you as a black person, you could die right now.
You ain't got no chance.
Yeah, you ain't got no chance to get out. And that's what they want us to believe. They want us to
showing
believe.
The same thing, same thing. Look.
That's what they want.
I'm going to introduce a term to most people are not aware of. Okay. It's called tricknology.
Tricknology. Not like trick that.
So tricknology is the use of technology to try to manipulate and pass propaganda to the masses. So they use TV as a form of tricknology. So when they're using these terms, especially with COVID-19, more black people are getting killed by COVID-19 than anybody else, that's something you have to think about. Is it our black skin that's being targeted when it comes to COVID-19? Or are they saying, you know what, we're going to spare this white man and this disease is going to attack these black people? That's how you got to sometimes break down certain things. Because when we say black are most likely, you have to say this. Is this dark skin the reason why this is going to happen? When I know that there's a chance that as a black man I'm going to be targeted by police, it's not because of anything other than my skin is making me the target. My skin complexion. You cannot sit here. A lot of times they want to talk about these diseases that affects people. If you're a healthy person and you're taking care of your immune system, you're doing these stuff, of course, you're going to have a better chance of fighting any disease, any virus, than a person that's not healthy. That's not a color thing. So that's an example of tricknology. Another tricknology is, you know, how social media will show the violence of a man getting killed, but let a girl show a titty. Page is banned. I remember I just shared a post on a couple of groups a little too fast, and they shut my page down for a week on Facebook. These are forms of tricknology that we have to be aware of. That is playing, because at the end of the day, I just listen to you speak. You talk about all the places you've been, traveled as a black man. You've traveled to these places. You've seen these different ways. You can tell me about a side of the world that I've never seen. You can educate a lot of people on this. You have a global perspective, and that's what's needed. And that's a lot of black people that have that. So we need to learn how to tap into each other and get into a place where we can share this information and not feel like, oh, because this person's skin is dark, we gotta look at them type funny. Because that's what tricknology has done for us, is make us look at our own without recognizing that they have the information that we're looking for and they have the solutions that we need.
Okay. You got
It's a lot. Might not finish it today, but I'm gonna put it in timing call for 2 minutes.
Okay. Time for 2 minutes.
I see it as a dilemma, because if we if this has happened 400 years, as in Moses, we might not be the ones that see the promised land of this. Mm-hmm. So I think we got to realize, because remember the Willie Lynch letters said this will continue even after slavery is done. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Y'all look up the Willie Lynch letters. So I think it comes off as if we're trying to end it all. And I think it's going to be a baton where we're going to run, and then we're going to have to pass it. But I don't know if we're going to exactly see what we're saying. And from my stance, I don't want white people to like me. I don't want white people to accept me. I just want to be treated the same way. So therefore, if my credit score is 700, give me the same interest rate.
That's right.
That you're going to give the white guy.
Keep that same energy.
That's all I'm asking for. But I'm not asking for you to like me because my acceptance shouldn't come from you. But again, we have to, some kind of way, because in the black community, for some of us, it's the NFL. I've coached youth football, NFL. And then that kid gets 19 or 20 and feel like he has failed his family because he didn't make it to the NFL. We got to expose them. My son's going to be he wants to be an engineer.
That's real.
Engineer is over football. Because if we're not even educated, I mean, we can go into how 55 to 65% of black professional athletes live paycheck to paycheck and end up going broke after the NFL. With nothing to do after you done spend all that money. So engineers, hey, mama might not take them to the movies. Take them down into the science center.
And then there's so many
always
things.
do that with me.
There's so many things.
You gotta expose them to something different.
And I'm gonna just add real quick to what you just said. And one thing that what you just said so on point. If we learn anything for our future, watch what happened when COVID-19 hit. Look who was out of work and who they deemed non-essential. And we were in a lot of those fields. So we need to expand into these fields that are quote unquote essential.
But look who was working. Those guys that
But I would say this. The one thing you have to understand about the term essential is I'm gonna leave my job, I'm still essential. Understand essential meaning that you still have an importance to this life.
And I don't mean essential.
No, I know what you mean. 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 You're talking about from the.
But you know what I think it is? And then when somebody brought up, and I know we're going to run over the top of the somebody brought up, and like they said, what we messed up at was where we stopped focusing so much on trades and focused on paper type positions.
Facts.
Because what happened was, you know, when they talk about building economic wealth, when you were back in the days when we did focus on trades, you call a plumber, you could call a black plumber, you could call a black electrician, you could call a black carpentersman, you had a black laundry owner, you had a black grocery store, you had black people in different industries. Nowadays, we are dominated, we're killing, we're making good money. I'm not knocking it at all, but we don't have as many, the black dollar doesn't stay in the black community as much because we're not as spread out as we would be.
And the thing is, you're right, you're 110% right, I agree with that. You have to learn how to be multiverse in whatever you do. And me, as a person, I said I need to learn how to do more things with my hand. Yes, I can do a lot of stuff with my mind, you know, but what can I do with my hands? Because if my mind and my body is all in one, then I can be well versed. Meaning that if I'm in a situation where my paper job is on hold, what can I do with my hands to make this bread? You know, whatever we can do. That's all we have to do. We have to be multiverse, and we gotta recognize that multiverse. We can build our own structure once we learn trade.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm gonna add my 2 cents, baby. I'm gonna let you take it on home. You know what I'm saying? So I heard everything everybody just said, but what I didn't hear is I heard get a career, be doctors, be lawyers. You know, y'all heard the black industry. I heard everything. Well, what we gonna do with our money? All right, we can talk about all these careers and we can take off and run and forget about everybody else. Well, what we gonna do with our money? We got millionaires out there already, right? They invest in them, right? Maybe not in the masses, but them. So like, as you talk about, we need grocery stores. We need black banks. We need other things where we can funnel in funnel our own money in and channel it back in, so it can be like a circle of motion, right? So now we don't need Walmart. Now we don't need to go to the bank, their bank. Now, as you saying, you want to get rid of Instagram and all this other stuff. Now we can go to our.
We need Black Planet back.
You see what I'm saying? So it's everything y'all did say, but what we gonna do with our money, right? We can get rich. We can be in places. We can put our moles in places, but we need to funnel our money back into our own communities in a way where we can support us. Not hating on y'all. Trust me, I support y'all too. Barbershops, lawn care service, barbecue pits, all that stuff, yeah. But I go to the grocery store every day. Yeah. I need to go to the bank, right? I guess who I see in the bank.
And I'm gonna take it one further. I always tell people this is just throw the loop. Mm-hmm. Have you ever met an owner of a factory that makes water bottles, or makes screws, or makes hangers, or makes wood 2x4s, or makes salt for the rocks? It's so many industries in this world that we can break into. That I think the problem is that we've been doing it though.
Right.
We built this country. Don't misconfuse it. We are in every one of these industries. We just don't own them.
Right.
Because they're being passed down. They've been taken from people. They've been built on the back of people who came before them. It's just we need to get back into telling our kids like, hey, this is also good money.
Let me add one thing too, because you said it. One thing I said it. Talking about, you said it actually. You said that we gotta recognize that I'm just using my words. The reward that we're gonna get may surpass us in life. We have to do the work. We cannot expect that we're gonna reap the reward from the work that we do now.
Right.
You gotta understand that. Did Malcolm X reap the reward from the work he did? Did Harry Tubman did anything? Because the truth is, those energies are within us. They didn't leave. They physically are not here. But there's a new Malcolm X. There's a new Martin Luther King. That's a Harriet Tubman that's in here. We have to recognize that that is part of who we are.
Yeah.
Energy don't die.
No.
It just transfer from one place to another. So how do we channel those energies for what we can do today? Because what we do today now can make the world better 50, 100, 200 years from now. As somebody told me is this, what we do now, the work we do now is that if you ever had to come back into this world, you should benefit from it. And the work that I focus now is that, I said this in my book, it's a small little quote that I said that we are benefiting from the fruits of the labors of those that became before us. It is our job to make those that come after us benefit from the fruits of the labors of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
All right.
Take this home, baby.
It's my turn. Okay, so to sum everything up, as you can see, we didn't want to necessarily focus on the negatives.
Right.
What we're looking for at this point is solutions. Okay? And the positives. Like, there's good in everything that we talked about, because I was listening to Chichi Bae earlier, which is so funny that I stumbled on her Instagram video where she was talking about, we're saying all these negative things, which we're repeating, I can't breathe, and, no justice, no peace. But those are actually negative affirmations. So if we're actually going to manifest greatness, we need to be speaking life into things, right? And as Javon said, energies don't die. It really don't. We're constant in vibration. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of how the alignment comes together, right? So with that being said, we need to find a way for us internally, individually, as a whole, to be more positive, in spite of it all, because there is something good. First and foremost, you woke up in your right frame mind. Although you may question your sanity some days, you got all your limbs working. You can go to work. You might, if you don't go to work, but you're home and you got a roof over your head, you went into your refrigerator, you used the bathroom, you had all those experience, all those things that are what somebody would call a luxury, right? You looking at it as, hey, I work for it, but it's a luxury to somebody else. Understand? But so therefore, there's something to be thankful for, right? And so with everything going on, it is bad. It is bad, no doubt, no doubt. But there is also good, like we mentioned earlier. There are so many people doing right, doing out here on the behind the scenes, front line, everything, putting in the work. There's so many people putting in the work, but we still got work to do. All right, we need those grocery stores because I need to be. If I'm gonna put my money into black businesses, I need to go. I need to be putting my money where I spend my money. I need to eat.
Not just what you already cook.
I want to buy my gas. I need to put gas in my car. You know what I mean? It's other more essential things beyond the other things. Let's get to the root of it. Like the banks, the grocery stores, the gas stations. We can get some, start narrowing those, getting that pot together. You know, we on the right track to progress. Start with start taking care of your kids
at an early
age. Because we already know once they get to a certain age, it's not that they gone, they're too far gone, but it's harder. So let's get them while they're young, right? We all collectively agree on that? That's very good. And you black men, I love y'all. Y'all keep telling each other y'all love each other.
Yes.
Show your brothers that you love them by your actions, not just your words. You understand? Sisters, tell them you love them. Hug your man. Hug your cousin. Hug them. Let them know you see them for the things that they're doing when they doing, even though they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're being accountable. Just say, I thank you. And that's how we're going to change the narrative. We got to start with just those small things and affirming positiveness. Affirming that how you see what you want to see, what that manifestation is supposed to look like. We got to start speaking life into this. It's no differently than from the Bible, okay? But from a spiritual perspective, we speak life into things, yes? As if it is so. And I'm done.
Whoa.
All right. Today is a great day to be great.
All right.
Thank you, Sippers, old and new. Thank you, panel that came out. We didn't want to focus on the negative. We wanted to keep that good energy going and let y'all know that we here. We too have voices, and we are here for you. All right? Let's go. Let's go. I need my engineer on deck. Oh.